Welcome to the study. This is Professor Hemlock here today with a 18 Necrotic Wake video breakdown. I'm really happy to bring this to everyone. This is a key that went pretty smooth overall. I want to give a big shout out to our tank and healer in this video who have been very great and have wanted to run dungeons with me consistently. So I'm starting to have a little bit of a group form and it's really nice. So on the opening pull here, we're going to try to build up as many of our Harmony stacks as possible. We're going to Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi AP, 5 blasts, sneak in that final little barrage, and then do big AoE damage. After that, it's simply AoE into barrage. We're going to try and use our Clearcast procs here. The rogue does actually stop that, but I block anyways. Not really much harm here, since block is going to be able to be effectively used for future packs as well. And right there, you can kind of see the power of Kyrian's opening strength there. We were able to pull 30k DPS pretty easily there. Now, near the end of a pull, what I'm trying to do is build up my Harmony stacks as high as possible. That way, for the next pull, I then have 18 Harmony stacks, or as high as possible Harmony stacks, going into that DPS. Okay, we're going to wait for the Pat to leave here. So what I should do going into this pull is I should drop Rune into Radiant Spark and Touch of the Magi. Maybe I cast Missiles once. Right here, I'm trying to communicate with my group. I'm marking my target. So there you go. A little team communication helps out Arcane a lot. So we drop Rune, Radiant Spark, and then Touch of the Magi. And then we're going to go into 4 or 5. Looks like I'm going to do 5 blasts here. And I sneak in that. Unfortunately, I'm kind of salty there. I do kick the Drain Fluids. My orb, unfortunately, gets glitched on the stone, so I do lose some DPS there. You should always try using your clear casting procs on missiles. That way you can build up your Harmony stacks for those big barrages when you're not doing the primary DPS rotation. Right here, I could use Orb. Probably should have used Orb there first. Oh, I do after I'd use the clear casting proc, so that's actually fine. Using the clear casting proc on missiles here, very good. Now we're going to get Pride popping after this, so what I should do every time before Pride spawns is I should evocate. That way I'm still able to apply solid DPS throughout the duration of Pride spawning. So let's see what happens. Okay, we get the Pride spawn. I should evocate right now. I do not evocate, so that was a mistake right there. I went into this fight with 30% mana when I should have gone into this fight with 100% mana, because you will not ever need to use Evocate after Pride for at least a minute and a half. There's no way you burn through your mana while using Pride. So to effectively maximize your mana pool, you always want to Evocate before Pride, unless you're, at 100% mana. But you shouldn't. You should always try and end Pride pulls at relatively high mana percent or relatively low mana percentages. That way you have the ability to evocate. For speed, I do summon my Goliath here, since I already have 18 Harmony stacks. That is something you as well want to end with, is having 18 Harmony stacks. And then we get the little Goliath buff, and now we should be going into a traditional DPS rotation. We use our secondary on use trinket, Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, AP, 5 blasts, 2, 3, 4, and here's 5, and then a barrage. I should orb, use my clear cast missiles, build back up. We'll move out of the way there. Fire blast while I'm having some movement. Very clean. Now I'm going to go into a secondary DPS rotation. I'm going to drop Rune. I use Palm so I can keep casting while the quaking is occurring. I use Radiant Spark, and I'm going to do 5 blasts with the final blast ending in a barrage. And then I use my Clear Cast Missiles procs. I'm the target here, so I should be using a defensive option here. I use my Kyrian potion, and then I invis. And then we're going to just finish off the mob. Okay, really good. The only thing that I would say is slight improvement is I probably should have just kept casting missiles instead of dumping. Now going into this pull, I could have opened with Rune, Spark, Touch of the Magi. Now I don't have 18 stacks, so I need to get my stacks up prior to casting. So it was a mistake. Also, I shimmered late there. That was another mistake. I shimmered after dropping my Rune when I meant to shimmer prior to dropping my Rune. So this is just a small mistake really right here. But that small mistake is going to have me lose quite a bit of DPS, where I could have had all of my damage applied from that Rune. Now I didn't get any of it. So instead of doing probably 9 to 10k, maybe 12k, I'm in the 7k range. So that is a DPS loss. Making sure you're able to stay on your Rune is very important. Or in my case, if you are running Shimmer instead of Slipstream, make sure you Shimmer properly and don't ineffectively Shimmer. So kind of unfortunate there, but you know, it happens. I do want to end this pack at 18, as close to 18 as possible at least. I do have AP off cooldown, so I will be able to use that. Right now, if you're Kyrian as well, you do have your Steward up, so you should be able to instantly go and get the little Goliath. I see that my Kyrian pet is up, and I go activate the Goliath. So now if my tank wanted to, the tank could essentially do a double pull since we'll all have the buff. I got 3 stacks. I'm going to fish for clear casting procs is what it looks like I'm trying to do here. And then I do a little dump. And then we go back into farming. Okay, now we're going to have 18 clear cast or 18 harmony stacks. I might have been able to get away with using Rune and Radiant Spark for that pack. I probably should have if I was looking to optimize my DPS there. I used my unused Trinket Spark into AP. It definitely would have been more effective for that last pack if I did at least drop Rune for that. Now here, this is me forgetting. It's been a while since I've done keys that much. I forget that that is a movement mechanic that goes with you. It's not one of those dropping AoE things, so that was a mistake. We ended up doing really good DPS overall in that pack, pulling a strong 20,000, so feels nice. So we're going to skip next, and then here we're going to have Pride after this pack, I do believe. So as far as target prioritization goes in this situation, what I should have done is target... Okay, never mind, I'm switching. Never mind, I'm going back on the Marauder. Oh, because we're going to burst his shield, okay. So in that situation, generally, you do want to focus the casters until the shield is applied to the big guy, because when the shield pops, the big guy dies no matter what. So it's more effective to put your DPS on the Sorcerer or Bone Mender in that situation, and that is what I should have done differently. But, you know, heat of the moment, blah, blah, blah. Excuses, right? We get the kick on the mob. So far, we've had a really effective use of our kick cycling. Hopefully someone interrupts that final bargain. Yes, we get a nice little boop there. Very good. And that mob dies. Now, since I wasn't able to evocate before Pride here because we had Pride spawn in the middle of the pack, it wasn't as much of an issue for myself as much as it was just generic. I should use my gem here. Hopefully I use gem here. 1, 2, 3. I did use gem. Very nice. And so now we're able to go into our clear cast procs. And it looks like I'm going to still end with mana because I had a fair amount of those clear cast procs occur. So overall, you do always want to try and evocate before Pride. I can't state that enough. You need to be able to pump as much DPS as possible during Pride. That is one of the ways you do it. Okay. We're invising. I thought someone else would go pick up the spear, so I go pick it up. I think the rogue already has spears anyways. So I know I can solo the other one here. Looks like we're using minimal DPS here. Oh, never mind. I'm going to pop all my cooldowns. Okay, good. So the other one has the shield on him right now. And I think Touch of the Magi explodes and does a buttload of damage to his shield as well. And that makes the other mobs die. So I don't know if that was exactly the most effective use of cooldowns there. But when you have Pride buff, maximizing your DPS in those windows is typically going to be advantageous. So right here, I do have Radiant Spark off of cooldown, so this is great use right here, because now for the next pack, I will have Radiant Spark, I will have Rune, and I will have Touch of the Magi line up. So I did actually utilize Radiant Spark very effectively there. I had full charges. Unfortunately, we did get some movement mechanics that occurred, so I had to use Palm, so I couldn't line up a Palm Barrage, or a regular hard cast with a Barrage. I had to use Palm. But that does our Presence of Mind, for those who are not familiar with the acronym. Presence of Mind, Palm. P-O-M. Okay. So right here, could have had spent more time drinking, because now I'm going to need to use Gem here, probably. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I dump on 4, because I'm pretty far away, and I don't think I have enough haste to make the DPS check there. It actually probably would have been better to Gem and go 5 there. Since we're not focusing on killing the mob's AoE, this is a single target pull that is disguised as an AoE pull. It would have been better for me to go for 5, but I didn't have enough mana to cast the 5th, so I think I dumped instead of gemming. So I should have gemmed there, or I should have evocated between pulls. So right now, I think one of the biggest areas for improvement for myself so far by watching this key is more effectively utilizing evocation. I've been having to do like weird DPS cycles so far because of my lack of evocation use. Right here, though, we should get some great AoE DPS in. 1, 2, I use Palm, there's 3, 4, 5, and I try and sneak in the Barrage. Unfortunately, big issue right there, very unfortunate. I pulled aggro off of the tank, and when I pulled aggro off of the tank at that time, it caused my Touch of the Magi to miss every single mob besides the primary target of the Touch of the Magi. So instead of doing 50k DPS, we do 12k. Oh, it hurts. It hurts to watch. So again, this is definitely one of the things where Kyrian can feel pretty awkward, is if you gain threat over your target, you all of a sudden now are going to have issues. I'm not too worried about my DPS for the next pull since it's single target and we're going to all have Pride. So I'm going to use my mini cycle CDs here to try and deal as much DPS to the Pride as possible, making sure we don't pull any threat off the additional packs. Right there, rough situation with Quaking. It looked like we were all going to get hit by it. Now I want to get to 18 Harmony stacks here. Doesn't look like I'm going to. I think I'm dead here, actually. We're Quaking. We're going to get hit. So the Rogues cheat death procced, and I end up dying. Kind of unfortunate, but it happens. So I do lose my Harmony stacks anyways. What I should do when I res here is I should make sure that I get my intellect back up, and I should reapply barrier. What do you know? Good job, me. Okay. Going into this pull, I'm going to hope someone else has a lot of DPS to compensate for me. Looks like I'm actually going to just use a cooldown cycle here, knowing that probably by the time the boss is coming back up, I'll still be able to deal good DPS. So we do 5 blasts into the Barrage, and they drop. And I get to do pretty good DPS there, 16.5k. Mind you, that's not really an important DPS fight there because the primary damage is all that matters on your big target. So with the Pride timing there, it looks like we've pulled an extra pack, so we don't have Pride for this boss, but it is fortified rather than tyrannical, so it still shouldn't be a problem. We're going to build to 18 stacks on Harmony. By that time, the ads should spawn, or should be close to spawning. Land of the Dead in 1 second. So now what I should be doing is Radiant Sparking. Oh, got the Quake, so we're going to chill. There we go. Touch of the Magi, AP. Now, These get grouped up properly. What should occur is my Touch of the Magi explodes and does a massive amount of damage to all of the mobs. And it did a fairly good amount. I think we only hit a few of them there. And we are going to target down the mobs and make sure they die before Final Harvest goes off. A little bit sloppy on positioning there, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. Right here, I had the option to use Rune and Radiant Spark instead of holding for Touch of the Magi, because right now Touch of the Magi would just starting to be applied. Actually, so in this situation, I did make a mistake here looking at this. I should have held Rune and Radiant Spark for Touch of the Magi. At the moment, I do have the debuff, so there's another mistake I made. I had the debuff, and I unfortunately did not get to use Invis, and I did not use Mirror Images. So this was a big mistake on my part. Too focused on pumping out as much DPS as possible to down the boss as quickly as possible. I failed to sync up my cooldowns properly, and then I failed to use my defensives properly. So these are all mistakes that we could learn from right there. It looks like I do have everything sync back up, and now I'm probably going to get a good effective Touch of the Magi here at least. Hopefully they get grouped up in time. And they did. We hit all of them except for the mage in the back there. Now we should just tunnel down the boss, actually, so the AoE damage is going to be non-important damage. I'm going to eat to get my food buff back up. It does look like we have to, for percentage, clear an additional pack there. So big lessons on that pull that we could definitely take away are don't get impatient with your CDs. That is how you effectively reduce your DPS. That's a problem. And then, of course, using our defensive options when we take a debuff. So that debuff that was ticking for damage, all I would have had to do is clear myself with a defensive option, say Invis or Mirror Images, and I probably would have been able to live that. That is not on our healer to help us survive. That is entirely our responsibility. And since I do get to that pull late, and it looks like we spear that pull or hammer that pull or something, we used an item. I didn't expect us to use an item, so our tank did incredibly high DPS, meaning using an item there. That now, that AP cycle that I had was inefficiently used, where I could have had AP up for this major pull here. Instead, now I do not. So what I should do is Rune, Radiant Spark, and Touch of the Magi. I ended up doing that, so that's good. We're going to go 5 blasts. There's 2, 3, 4. Here's 5 into the barrage. Then Orb. Wait. I popped Mirror Images there. I was worried about getting aggro, I guess. We do get the Carver throw, but we line it up nice and good. Now it's going to kill that mob for us. So very good there. That was pretty clean. Mirror Images might have been a little excessive there. I probably shouldn't have used Mirror Images. Good use of Shimmer there, though. I need to Orb right now. Ideal situation, I'd Orb. There we go. We kick that. That's good. So I'm going to Rune, Radiant Spark, Touch on the Magi here, since we get a bonus pull. We'll see if this was an effective use or not. Looking at my cooldown cycle right now, I do have AP coming up soon. So now I have to wait for my Touch of the Magi to sync back up with my AP CD. So instead of being able to go into the next pull with AP now, I'm going to have a build phase before I'm able to use AP with 25 seconds on the countdown. Or maybe this pack doesn't die fast enough and we get to use AP anyways. We'll see if it was a good decision or not. I'm going to go ahead and probably say it was not a good decision there. I should have held, but... Low on mana using Evocate. What am I there? I'm learning. Halfway through the dungeon, I'm like, wait a second. I don't think we've done this button enough. And it ends up syncing back up perfectly with my AP cooldown. So I was right to use Touch of the Magi in that situation. Although it was really close, it ended up being great. And now we get to do a bunches of the DPS. Very good. Now what we want to do here, we're going to get Pride, so we want to kill him nice and even, which we do. And now, I do not have Evocate off cooldown, but I do have Gem if I need. But again, I'm looking at my mana pool. I'm at a decently high mana percentage, so I shouldn't need to Gem here, and I shouldn't need to do anything. I am going to touch the Magi this. Unfortunately, Quaking does occur, so I have to use Presence of Mind there. That was a good use to make sure I get all of my damage in, and I actually do end up being able to get the hard cast into the barrage there. So that was actually really good use of Palm. That was really good use of my cast into barrage combo there. I do have to stop cast here, otherwise I'll get kicked. And we end with almost out of mana, and Touch of the Magi is on cooldown still. So at this case, we have 18 charges. We have no DPS options. I do want to hold here. I should stop cast right now, please. I fire blasted right at the end there. Someone else gets that kick. I Radiant Spark, and then I Touch the Magi. So I'm not sure if this was the best use of the cooldown here. Looking at my AP cooldown, I barely made it in last time. This time, I'm not sure if I'm going to. We stop cast very effectively there. And it looks like I'm going to end this pull at 18, or I'm going to barrage here and then go back to building again. This is a fair use, because now I do have 22 seconds anyway, so I'm not going to be able to use AP at the very beginning of this pull. That does kind of suck, because I still had about 10 to 12 seconds left on the Pride buff. So now, instead of getting all of the DPS with the Pride buff, I'm not going to get all the DPS with the Pride buff. What I probably should have done was hold my 18 stacks, and I use AP in that situation. But instead, it looks like I use it later after dumping. So, bad mistake there. Unfortunately, that's going to cost us some DPS. So it looks like I'm making just a lot of generic little mistakes. Mainly with cooldown cycling is where I'm seeing like the most of my minor mistakes occur. I'm over-utilizing my cooldowns a lot of the time, where I should really be holding them for better use situations. So typically this is kind of what I see when I look at other mages playing. I'm either seeing overusing or underusing. And again, we do have to remember this is a pug, so we're not able to effectively call out CD use. Really good there. I make sure that the mob hits. The hunter is going to get fixated on, and the hunter dies, unfortunately. So we're going to end with 18. At this point in the pull, I don't have any cooldowns available, so it's okay to dump my barrage stacks. I should probably swap targets here. No, I got full use out of that missile, so that was really clean. The tank is going to absorb this for me. I should orb right now. And then I could, right here, what I could have done is orb, blast, and then dump, and then spam cast missiles instead. So this is, again, oh man, bad. I actually hard cast up to 4 instead. So I definitely made a mistake there. And then I dump, and now I go into this fight with... I end up with 12 stacks, so not bad. Thanks to those 2 clear casting procs at the end. Pride is going to spawn at a weird time here. I do have CDs coming up for this fight, this little pull here, so that's kind of nice. What I should do is use my secondary on use trinket, not drop rune. Oh, I had AP off cooldown. No! Oh! I think what my logic with this is I was going to have Pride after, and I wanted to use AP for that next one. But here's the problem with this, because you can kind of, like, let's think forward, right? So what's going to occur here is we're going to get Pride, we're going to have 1 pack, and then Boss. What I'm going to guess is going to happen here is I'm going to use AP for the pack after Pride. If I use AP for that pack after Pride, then I'm not going to have AP up for the time when Stitchflesh comes down. That is going to cause me to have a massive loss in DPS. If I had used AP on this pack, I would have gotten to do a lot more DPS. I also get Oh, he turned at the last second. I get hit by the frontal cleave. That kind of sucks. Unfortunate. But, yeah, whatever. But what's going to happen now is I'm going to use AP for this secondary pack, and then I'm not going to have it up by the time Stitch Flesh, or the boss comes down. Stitch Flesh, the surgeon. And then I will unfortunately lose out on a bunch of DPS. Let's see what happens, though. Great use of Invis there. Touch of the Magi, AP. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I dump at 4 because the mob was dying. So right now we have AP on cooldown, 1 minute and 40 seconds. We have the Pride buff, but we don't have any CDs. We're using it ineffectively here. Do get a nice little clear casting proc. Great use of orb there. Hopefully I stopped cast. No, I didn't. Oh, this has been what we in the business like to call a clusterfoink. I do at least cast Frostbolt there, though. Oh, this whole room has just been like a small series of unfortunate DPSing events. Okay, we're at 18 stacks here. We don't need to do a bunch of DPS to this creation. We're just kind of chilling for our little boss to come down. Boss comes down. I'm going to use my spear probably. Then I should rune, spark, touch of the Magi, shimmer back into that rune. Shimmer back into that rune. Yeah, there we go. All right, that's good. That's good. Unfortunately, I did have to shimmer away. Otherwise, I would have gotten my booty slapped and I probably would have died. Okay, he's down, but it looks like the rogue perfectly times this. He's pulled back down, and then we just go to finish him off here. I could Radiant Spark here, in theory. High Radiant Spark here. All right. 3, 4, and we finish him off. Okay. Very good. So that was actually a pretty clean use. We don't have Lust up for the final boss, though. We didn't plan on using Bloodlust there, but... Okay. All right, so what I want to do first here is I want to build up to 18 stacks. Then I want to use my unused trinket, Spark, Touch of the Magi, AP. We have 5 seconds, so I should be fine to squeeze this in, I think. We'll see. And I am. Now comes Comet Storm. I Orb, Presence of Mind. And then we're just circling around our rune, tight-knit circles. I should drop rune right now. Very good. I should use all my clear casting procs to get all the way back up. Now, once Radiant Spark comes off cooldown, I should use Radiant Spark. And there we go. Now it should be 5, 1. Oh, I Fire Blasted there. Kind of a good thing that I Fire Blasted there, because it made it so I was able to maximize my DPS. I should have Orbed there, but I do Orb here anyway, so not bad, not bad. Now we're waiting for our CDs to sync back up here. We Fire Blast. We go back to using missiles. After the next Comet Storm, I should drop Rune, Radiant Spark into Touch of the Magi. I reapply my shield. I hopefully drop Rune here. Bad cast of missiles there. Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi. Nice waiting there. I gapped it perfectly. And it should be 5. That's 3, 4, and here's 5. Into the barrage. Very nice. Orb into missiles. Perfect utilization there. Now we're going to lose our clear casting stacks. No! Bummer there. We do lose our clear casting stacks. Kind of unfortunate. We have AP cycling back up in 20 seconds. So after this next Comet Storm, I should use my AP go, and I should get it off before the next Exile occurs. But we'll see. Okay, here we go. On use Trinket, Radiant Spark, Touch of the Magi, AP. Beautiful. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to have to use 4. Do I go for the 5th? I missed the 5th. That was a bad miss, too. Because I moved and I stride casting, I missed out on making that blast inside the AP window. Missing that AP window was very important. It cost me quite a substantial amount of DPS there. So when I had the mechanic occur, where I had to move, what I should have done was simply hold, or just use barrage there, even though it was only 4 blasts instead of 5. I got greedy and tried to go for it, and that ended up costing me DPS there. So we kind of see how Kyrian can be punishing when you do have movement occur right there. That's a prime example. I had no presence of mind up because I'd already used it. I get back and the boss dies. And there we are. So we ended up doing 7.4k DPS. You know, reviewing kind of where I went wrong and what happened during that key, let's point out and summarize the key mistakes that were made in this key. So, for one, I didn't evocate enough. I could have evocated more effectively, leaving myself with higher mana pools and more ability to burn. There were several times where I was affected by quaking, where I either had to move and didn't have presence of mind available, or I let it interrupt me once this whole dungeon. So once isn't that bad, but 0 would be better. And then cooldown cycling. Although I was very aggressively using my cooldowns, and look, 7.4k DPS is great, right? It's great, but I can improve upon that. What I did was I was overutilizing my CDs instead of letting them sync up perfectly with proper pulls. So I was too aggressive in using my CDs. If I was more patient, I could have done more DPS. Now, me saying this, I also want to make sure you know to be cautious with underutilizing your CDs. I see more people underutilizing CDs than overutilizing CDs. And if there is a direction to go, overutilizing is probably the correct direction, because you can still pull big DPS figures. I did 7.4k DPS there when the rogue used 2 spears and I used 1. So spears didn't account for too much total difference in DPS there, with the rogue using the most of them. So anyways, that will be it for this video. I want to thank everyone for watching, and as always, I hope everyone enjoyed our stay in the study. We'll see you next time.